Welcome to Tim and Joe's Awesome Podcast. We're back. I know you've been missing us. We skipped last week because of the sickness, the COVID. I don't know. What did you have? Did you have COVID?
Let's go with that.
Why not?
Sweet baby Eleanor definitely had COVID. She was
ahead of her time. She's
less than 3 months old, and they handle it well at that point.
Oh my gosh.
Katie didn't handle it so well.
Man.
And I was like 2 weeks after the fact. I'm thinking, people need to study my blood like I am.
Yeah?
I am the cure.
Yeah, that's right. When I saw you last, you were like, I'm
can't
invincible. You were like,
you got everybody else in the house.
And then?
And then it got me. I worked out at the gym with Jared, and Jared does this routine at the end. The very last thing he does is he swims.
Wow. And
it's a great workout, back and forth. And he does 6. He down back, so 3 times, six laps. And I came out at that 6th one, and I came out of the water, and I was like, I think I've got COVID. I was like, I can't breathe.
The YMCA has quite a bit of chlorine. It didn't kill it?
It didn't. It must not have.
Oh, man.
It must not have. I should start swimming earlier.
Man.
I've swam since, and I feel much better. It was definitely the COVID.
Just marinate. And I think that's the cure for COVID, is you marinate in the pools.
Yeah, the chlorine. You inject it,
healing
actually.
pools of the YMCA.
Yeah.
And I think that's got to be something. Or science.
So we had to skip. I'm sorry.
Well, we're back, and I'm super excited.
Yep.
This prompt, I was inspired by something I heard an old preacher once say, the Lord will get it to you if he knows he can get it through you.
That's a good preacher.
Now, I didn't deliver it as good as he did, but the idea that oftentimes we're waiting for something to come to us, knowing that we're just going to hang on to it.
Yeah.
And really, the person next to us is getting things, and they're just sending it out to the next person.
That's good. And
they're getting a lot. So,
I imagine that sermon must have involved the story of Moses, getting people to the promised land but not being able to enter it.
I probably slept through most of that sermon. Yeah. You go ahead. You tell me. What
that's
about
all
Moses?
I got. That's all I got. But if there's anybody who got it to you but not through you,
because Moses. He never made it.
He didn't go through it. Yeah, but he got it to it.
Man. All right. Yeah. So this is the Moses and we're
edition.
doing this in 3 parts. Remember the 3 parts?
But all in one part.
So it's all. Well, we're going to start with the part 1, which is the Lord will get it to you if you can get it through you.
Yeah.
A Moses story.
Okay. It's just it's not that you have to come back the next 2 weeks to hear part 2, right?
No. It's all together.
Okay.
That's right.
The Moses trilogy might lose 10% of our 15 subscribers.
We're not going to hang on to that. But part 2 tonight will be disappointment is a missed appointment. Sometimes the disappointment in our lives is just because somebody else didn't live up to their get it to you, get it through you. So maybe they're still hanging on to something. I know there's been a couple times where I felt like, man, I was on a quest. I showed up at the door. I had 1 key. I showed up. There was 2 keyholes, and I'm waiting for somebody else who has the second key. I got 1 key. Where's the second key?
Sure.
And that person never showed up.
Never showed.
And then the third part of tonight's podcast is going to be times where we were disappointed at the moment, but in hindsight, we're like really glad.
Rhyme it. The other 2 rhyme.
Disappointed. Now you got the ointed. You know what I'm saying? From disappointed to anointed. You know what I'm saying? How about that?
I do.
It was like we were disappointed in the moment, but now we're like, man, that was a blessing. That was a blessing that didn't work out.
Yeah.
So let's start with number 1. The Lord will get it to you if he knows he can get it through you.
Yep.
This is our go back to church, folks.
Oh my gosh.
Episode.
All right.
Come on now, we have in church. So what's an example? What's a story in your own life where you felt like, man, I was given something just so that I would be the guy that got it to somebody else.
Yeah. First thing that comes to mind is the lifestyle of being a caseworker. Is that exactly? I think anybody who's ever been a caseworker, formally or informally, because on some level we've done, probably everybody's done that, right? But I've been a case manager.
I don't think everybody's been a case manager. I love that you're like putting it out there that people are like, because you're kind of like a guardian, a helper,
a mentor.
an angel. You're like a guardian angel.
Yeah. I mean, that would be, that is the most gracious way to put it for sure. But because I tell you, I've been a bad one too. I mean, there's so much.
Bad angel.
Most of these caseworkers and case managers are learning as they go. Like everybody can help you do like the mainstream benefits. They can help you like, fill out a FAFSA or do those basic things, and they are not ready for like the real nitty gritty. Okay. It's probably involved in some missed appointments. Really, is just sort of the lessons learned on that. But one of my first jobs out of college was working as a residential counselor, which is something that's probably in every city, at least mid-sized cities.
Residential counselor, for our listeners who maybe don't know what that is, teenagers who are in foster care.
Yes,
right. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So in Louisville, there's one place that has an emergency shelter attached to it. And I'm not sure if every city has one.
Why don't you say the name of it, just in case you're out there and maybe you or your kid needs an emergency shelter? It would be...
Yeah, so Home of the Innocents is the emergency shelter in Louisville. And if you... and that's usually when it's kind of an adult or social services initiating the emergency services. If you're just a young person who needs housing, the only place that it's going to house you is YMCA Safe Services off Crittenden. But Home of the Innocents, I mean, this is... So I got placed on the unit for the emergency shelter. And so these are kids who are hours from being removed from a home, or they are runaways. Cop picks them up off the street in the middle of the night, doesn't know name, doesn't know, parents, anything like that.
Wow.
There's only one place to take them, and that's the shelter that I worked at. And so... being that assignment was like, I mean, honestly, it was the simplest assignment I've ever been given. It's just like, hey, be here. Kids are going to come in. They're going to be here for a short amount of time. Make sure they feel like kids. Like, this is the most traumatic experience, hopefully, of their life. I mean, that may not be the case. There's some kids, that I interact with have some incredibly difficult stories. But... that was it, really. It's like, hey, these kids are coming in. Let them know, we have food here. Like, you're going to eat 3 meals a day. You're going to have your own room. There are going to be people here. They're going to check on you. You're going to get what you need. You're safe.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the job. And the kids I encountered were incredible and resilient. And I can remember some of them today. And for me, the job is literally be yourself and be there, right?
Yeah.
And it's that simple. It's so simple, and even though I'm sure I messed it up many times, it is such an important assignment, right?
Yeah.
For a kid who's experiencing probably all the unknowns. They don't know why they've been removed from their home, if they've been removed from their home, probably, at least in those initial few hours or days.
Yeah.
And they don't, or they don't know where they are, or they just came from like off the street, and who knows what they've experienced, right?
Yeah.
So, they're all minors. I mean, that was the assignment, right?
Yeah.
Pretty simple one.
Yeah. Man, I love that. And it sounds like you were the guy. They came in, they didn't even know that people were out there and they wanted to help.
Sure.
And you were the guy kind of connecting them with the next steps,
Yeah. Yeah, and for some of those kids, right, like, or maybe they'd age out, maybe they were going to be in foster care, right, and that was always hard. Most of these kids, almost all of them, believed like, I'm going to see my parents soon, like they're going to pick me up tonight, right, and like that's usually not the case, and so sometimes they'd be moved over into some long-term housing, but that wasn't me. That was just I'm the emergency shelter, right? So if they're there beyond a few days, then maybe they're probably not going to be on my unit, right, on my house, but. Incredible stories of resilience from those kids that, they're 10 years old and they still kind of inspire me.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, mine isn't as intense as that. That is beautiful. That is a guardian angel story for sure. Gosh, for me, some of it goes back like in college. I was a social work major. You were actually doing it. I was out there just learning about it. I did work at a children's home for a summer as an intern, that kind of stuff.
Cool. Not here in Louisville?
No, I was in Florida.
Okay.
And then I worked at a emergency mental health spot for
I'm sure there's a lot of overlap from our experiences, for sure.
Did you have like a recurring nightmare where you're like, no, I work here, and they're like, no, you live here, and you're like trying to escape, and like Esther's right behind you, like, Timothy.
Oh my gosh.
Sit down.
Yeah.
Go back to lunch. You know, did you have those recurring nightmares? Because I sure did. I sure had those.
Oh no.
I hope Esther's retired by now. Bless her heart.
Oh my gosh, no. Luckily I got out just in time. The burnout on these jobs is so real.
Yeah.
I mean, did you feel that?
Yes, I was there just for a year, and I was like, I have to go into construction work, and I got my commercial driver's license out of the.
Oh, did you?
I got out of that, and I was like, I have to rethink my whole life. I got a commercial driver's license.
Get me out of here.
Driving a dump truck, pulling excavators, doing construction work. I was like, this has got to be different. But
good using that degree. Good on you.
Sometimes looking back, it's like, man. So not every season of my life has been like, hey, if you put your hand to the plow, it comes up roses. Most of the time in my grown-up life, it's been you put your hand to the plow, there's going to be rocks. You can have to pull them out. There's going to be soil that you got to till up. You got to plant the seeds. But when I was a younger man, and I was just literally living that wonderful stupidity that is college, right? Get it to you, get it through you. And so I was teaching trombone lessons at that time.
Okay.
Making a little extra money. I was on full scholarship at Florida State University. And my parents...
For a music scholarship?
No, it was a national merit. They needed some national merit people, so they gave me some money.
Is that what it was? We'll need anybody. Is that what it was?
Probably,
come on, Tim.
Probably.
Be a little proud.
And then, so I had a little extra money, and then my mom and dad, they were like, gosh, my brother was going to an expensive college someplace else. And I think they felt like, man, we're giving him money for all this because he didn't get because he wasn't going to Florida State.
He couldn't get a scholarship. They didn't need
You should see his degree. So this is a great example. So Florida State was basically a laser printer printed out my degree.
Yeah.
Somebody stamped it.
Sure.
Basically, it was like they stamp your hand. They're like, you graduated. Get out. It doesn't matter.
Go drive a dump truck.
Go do something. Go get a commercial driver's license. My brother, however, his diploma is like on thick paper written in Old English with a calligraphy pen and an eagle scrawled above the top. Let it be known that this day and this day forward.
Gold letters. Yeah.
Yes. So that was his experience. Anyways, so I at the end of a semester, end of a year.
Yeah.
I had money left over in my checking account, And I was like, all right, well, that's, I like to zero it out.
Yeah.
I think I had like $400 or something
Don't get too comfortable.
I was going back to
too
Texas, live with my folks first. No, I was going to go work at a summer camp in Arkansas for the summer. And I was like, I don't need this $400. So I just walked to the homeless shelter that was literally right across the street from the university. Because, it's an easy way.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to get back between. And I was like, hey guys, let me just write you a check. I'm trying to zero it out. So I wrote him a check for $400. And
by the way, do you have any resources for people who are trying to get to Arkansas?
I gave you, now you give me. It's a beautiful relationship. And I just I was like, I bet you guys get this all the time.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is the first time this has ever happened.
No!
And I was
gosh.
That can't be it. And there was also times where like in college, one time me and my buddy were driving around. I think we were coming back from hanging out at a friend's house or whatever. And we saw somebody sleeping on the steps of a church.
Sure.
So, gosh, again, like we're just trying to be, we're trying to do right. So we pull over. And we ask the guy like, hey, are you looking for a place to sleep tonight? Again, it was like I was trying to zero out. I think it was at the end of the semester. I had some money. He's like, oh, man, I just got out of prison and I just thought, man, I should go to the church because that's it, but it's closed. I'm just going to sleep on the front steps. We were like, oh, there's a hotel right down. So we just drove him down to the closest hotel and we paid him for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 nights.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't the best hotel.
Sure.
But
sure. It was next to Florida State. I mean,
it might have been a motel to be honest. Because I guess motels have the door that goes out to open air.
That's what we've learned on here.
That's it.
Some of our return listeners will remember.
The episode. Yeah. So that was a good story. And then there was Dave. Gosh. So Dave is a bittersweet story. Dave lived in a house that was getting renovated. So my senior year, we lived in probably frat rejects, like the rejects of frat row. We lived in their neighborhood.
Who were still merit scholars, yeah. That is the litmus test.
So the cool thing about being a merit scholar is they do pay for your housing.
Oh, cool.
But you can roll that into anything. So I rolled it into living with 4 other guys.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, probably 4 other guys. We had a house on Acton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great time, man. Great memories.
I guarantee it.
But there was a guy that lived across the way that was in a house that was getting renovated, Dave. And anyways, Dave, that guy evidently had a falling out with, so it's kind of like you live here and you fix it up. Well, I bet he was living there. I'm not sure he was fixing it up, So that guy kicked him out. So we're like, oh, Dave, you can stay with us. We're like trying to, he's like, oh, well, let me just pitch a tent in your backyard. So my senior year of college, Dave, we ran an extension cord out to his tent in the backyard. And Dave, gosh, he'd get up early, go out and find bicycles that needed repairs.
Yeah,
we're all like,
kids' bicycles that were in the front yard. Man. Oh, what a go-getter.
Oh, man, they were just throwing these bikes out. I got to change the brakes and everything. And we'd be like, man, Dave, look at you. You're really making something of yourself. And then Dave, one night, showed up late, and he had been in a knife fight, and there had been a knife shoved into his thigh.
What?
That went in probably about as deep as my pinky.
Still there? It was still there when you saw him?
The knife wasn't there, but the hole, he showed us. Because a buddy of mine, Matt, he woke him up and was like, Matt, I need your help. I need you right now. Matt was like, what's up? Dave, what's up? Dave was like, I think I may have fallen. I think I fell on something pokey.
One of those faulty bikes he was fixing. Yeah.
This much of a faulty bike went into his leg. He's like, I need you to take this knife and I need you to get it nice and hot on the stove and cauterize this thing.
Yep.
So Matt was like, yeah, man, whatever. I'm sorry you had that bad fall. Knowing that probably was more than that. Anyways, cauterized it, that kind of stuff. So we did the best we could with Dave. I felt like we had a cool spot. It was right next to the stadium, good neighbors, fun times. And it was all, in some ways, it was just so that Dave could have a spot to hang out in the backyard.
If you did nothing else.
If we did nothing else, you know. And he came in clutch. We had gone away for like a week to come back and get our stuff because it wasn't time to move out yet. But the landlord had figured like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the semester. He was used to, this tells you the neighborhood we were living in, he was used to just sending in people to trash the place, to pull out everything that everybody left behind. Yeah. It was a very disposable house, if that makes sense. Anyway, so they came in, they were trashing all our dishes. They were trashing all our, because we hadn't moved out yet. We still had a week, you know? And Dave from the backyard comes running in.
Come on, Dave.
He's like, y'all got to get out of here.
Yes.
They're coming back. And they're like, who are you? And he's like, I told them I was your uncle. I said, and they were like, why is their uncle camping in the backyard? Like, well, because these college kids, they like the privacy. They're like, they do like their privacy. So I'm out there. Can you believe they put their own uncle?
Dave's quick.
They put their own uncle. I'm still a little sore about it. Well, you should be sore. I am sore. Yeah. So I'm out here. You can leave the dishes. So when we came back I think I'd gone home for a week and then I came back. I remember finding like garbage bags, big black garbage bags with all my dishes in it. And I was like, this is just, but you know, in college, you're like, the universe is not a permanent place. You know, at that point, you're like, if I'd come home and a whole bedroom was missing, I would have been like, well, it figures, you know? Yeah. I mean, it's life on Earth, right? If a unicorn was walking through my yard, I'd been like, I knew they were real. I knew it. So David got in there and helped out, made sure that they didn't unpack. They just left the bags, you know. So, I still carry that. I remember a friend of mine, David Yeager, who has written a book recently that is about how we can influence people between 10 and 20. That's when we really change people's trajectories. David Yeager. Anyways, check out his book. It's great. He was notorious for you'd be like, David, I have an amazing opportunity. And he would be like, let me hear it. And you would be like, here's an opportunity to make a ton of money doing very little work. All you have to do is...
Write a book.
He'd be like,
Write a book.
Like, that's amazing. I have just the person for that opportunity. And he would send it to like, hey, you gotta talk to my buddy Patrick. He takes pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, David, you know what? Like, I really think there's a really cool opportunity. Blah, 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 blah. He'd be like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
You know, Sarah is like the perfect fit. He was like king of getting, if you brought him an opportunity, he wouldn't ever stop to think like, how do I get my sticky fingers on that? He would just think like, who is the best fit for that opportunity?
Okay.
And he would get it to him.
Yeah.
And I've tried to adopt that. Recently, somebody wanted a photographer for an event.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, I can take photos. You know what I'm saying? I don't take good photos.
Right.
I take the worst. But this person wasn't asking, how good are your photos? He was just asking, I need somebody to take photos of this event. And I was like, awesome. And I just remember David Yeager, and I was like, no, I have to tell you, this person, amazing photographer and hungry. Yeah. This person, amazing photographer and hungry. I will not want to skidoo, act like I know how to take photos.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many opportunities that if we're each other's hype person, right? Then those opportunities really manifest, and then there are our hype person, and we're their hype person, and all of a sudden, like it's really grooving. So it's been a while since I had a homeless person live in my backyard. I hope Dave is doing well.
Yeah, that's wow. That was the precursor to we. I mean, what is going on with Dave's living in backyards and tents, which I mean is maybe a good segue to missed opportunities. Most of my missed opportunities, as far as
part two right
here, is you are not the right person for that job, right? But I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Ooh, yeah.
Rather than not showing up, that's not really my thing. Is I'll try to show up and do the wrong thing.
Oh,
you know
okay,
I mean?
yeah.
And that's actually a good one, which I hadn't thought about. But that was somebody that was a really tough situation. I was living next to somebody who was living, they were squatting in a house.
That David.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm living next to him. He's my neighbor. For a good year, we have a good neighborly relationship. And one day,
we're talking about a different David.
We're talking about a different David.
My David was Tallahassee. His nickname was Nighthog later.
Okay.
After his psychotic breakdown, which you'll have if you're homeless.
Yeah.
Your David was in psychotic breakdown in Kentucky.
That's true. Well, I kind of saw the transition. I mean, it might have been there from the very beginning, but it was getting much worse. And there was, I think, the breaking point for us is we had brought him dinner one night, and Katie apparently had used just a smidge too much oregano. And
not the oregano.
You bet.
Okay.
You bet.
Right.
And
I don't know where this is going.
Well, he became convinced that we tried to poison him.
With the oregano?
Just with the unknown substance. Actually, as a matter of fact, he thought that we put one of the dirty diapers from Amelia in there. It's true.
Oh.
And so he said as much, and from that moment on, the relationship was very tense. There was really no talking him out of that. I mean, and I'll tell you, as far as the wrong person, I was the wrong person to kind of mend that relationship. Our other neighbor across the street, Jared, who seems to make an appearance on every single one of these podcasts, was the wrong person to mend that relationship.
He was the wrong person.
He was, and that was a weird. I mean,
he's that peacemaker.
He is. I've never known somebody to have a problem with him, but David did, and somehow you, John Lee, others were the right people because you were a little bit removed enough from it, weren't living on the street. Weren't there when his tools went missing, right? When they'd always be on the other side of the fence. He misplaced them. He's homeless. He's getting his things stolen all the time. He's a victim as well.
Yeah.
But anytime something like that happened, you could not convince him that Jared Wright didn't do it. But you somehow managed to really be a mediator in that. Oh, absolutely. He definitely took to you.
Okay.
I don't know that you ever. I mean, did you even have sort of a falling out? I mean, the rest of us
I never had
did.
a falling out.
Yeah.
I helped him jump his truck, and then his truck fell apart, and then he was like, oh, I bet it was Amy.
Yeah.
I know it was Amy.
Yeah, so there was another. But it wasn't you.
Well, no, because I said, David, Amy's got a kid.
Yeah.
She doesn't have time.
Yep.
To be coming in here and sabotage. He's like, what? I was like,
so you were the right person because you could reason like that. And I think for me, at a certain point, I stopped even allowing it to be able to have the conversation.
Man.
It would be like, hey, I'm going to call the cops on you. And I would just be like, go ahead.
Yeah.
And he'd call the cops on me. And I'd sit there while the cops go through his stuff. And he shows them videos of me stealing his stuff. And the cops come back and they're just like, yeah, the video was of a tree branch. You know?
No.
And I'm just, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So that is... in the end, there was nothing I could do within my power to mend that relationship, and I'm sleeping next to somebody who is threatening me,
because he had taken over the backyard of an abandoned house that was right next door to your house and your wife and your beautiful daughter.
Yes, and we're seeing text messages where he's saying he's going to set the house on fire while we're sleeping. He's going to do some other things.
And
I mean, explicitly, going to, kill us or whatever. I mean, it was...
Man, that's so heavy.
So, I'm very grateful for the people who were the right people to talk to him. I mean, it really took a few people checking in intentionally that he trusted to really be able to mend that relationship. And ultimately, he did move. And it was because they kind of fostered that to make that happen. Most of my missed opportunities, missed connections, really are trying to be somebody that is not. I'm not playing the right role. To go back to caseworker, you're taught, or you learn at some point incorrectly that maybe the best way to get somebody to do what you want them to do is that you kind of withhold yourself from them. Right, when they're not doing the right thing, right? If you're still using or you're still at whatever, it's like, well, okay, well then I'm not gonna be able to continue helping you if you're gonna do that, right? Yeah. And you learn, hopefully people learn along the way, like that doesn't get you anywhere, right? Yeah. You can't. You are not important enough to be able to say, well, we're not going to be able to continue. I'm not going to be able to be your case manager, right? And in the end, really, to get somebody to change behaviors, the only thing you can do is help them realize that on their own, right? Yeah. And so the art of harm reduction was paramount in the world of working with. At one point, I was working specifically with 18 to 24-year-olds who were sleeping on the street, and my job was we'd give them a housing voucher. So like, hey, we're going to house you in an apartment for a year or two while you get, everything together. And there was, at certain points, a belief that like, okay, they brought drugs into the house. Oh, they broke the lease. Oh, they got bed bugs. Yeah, they're out of the program. Which, after a while, you realize nobody's completed this program. I mean, very few people. Wow. And the people that are completing the program were cherry-picked. They were not the hardest people to interact with off the street. Yeah. The hardest people to interact with off the street, they're going to... you're not getting that deposit back. No question. I mean, the landlords hated us for the most part. But instead of telling them, hey, you don't have the finances to keep using drugs. You need to get a job. Instead, if we can actually just budget plan together, or maybe when you leave the office, I send you with some fentanyl test strips, right? So that at least when you're using, I know that you're not going to OD in your apartment, which did happen, which somebody died, right? That is what you're dealing with. But that's also what they're going to interact with on the street, right? Yeah. So this is harm reduction, them just being in a house. Louisville called it RX Housing, the RX Housing Initiative, because there was, I believe he was in Philadelphia, it was a doctor who he'd go out in the street and he'd write people prescriptions for things, antibiotics and things. And he realized eventually, like, they need a prescription for housing. Wow. It doesn't matter that they're using. They got needle marks, they got infections. They're not going to stop using until you get them some housing. So when I started to embrace the idea of a housing first model and harm reduction model, you don't have to tell me you're clean. Like there's nothing you can do. I don't care what you do. I'm not gonna kick you out of this program, okay? You tell me that you're using this much. All I want to know is that next time we meet, you're willing to tell me you're using this much less. Or, which that might not be possible, you're using fentanyl test strips when you use. Or when you use, you're calling somebody right before you use to let them know, hey, I'm about to, call me back in an hour. Right? If you can change your state of mind before you use, if you can change the environment that you're using the quality that you're using, or the amount of the dose that you're using, that's harm reduction, right? And that's when I actually began to see results as far as that. But it took me so long. There are probably half a dozen people who ended up back on the street because I didn't understand that and because people wouldn't tell me that.
Yeah. Man, I hear you there. I don't know. I just think it's wild that we would expect somebody to go from zero to hero after a lifetime of, honestly, missed appointments.
Sure.
Maybe their mom or their dad missed the appointment of being there in their life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's something that I carry with, because, I've moved from city to city a bit, is that oftentimes I have the vibe, because honestly, there's people that I may have seen for the last time, and I never realized that was the last time I was going to see them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And I don't mean they died.
Yeah.
I mean, I've moved away. They've moved away.
Yeah.
And sure, we might text every once in a while. But I probably would have said some things,
Yeah.
But I appreciate you. This is what I see you doing that I think is just so amazing, even though maybe it's not working right now. Because a lot of my friends were actors, producers, and they were on the lower level that you don't even realize. Like underneath, like the Oscars and all that, are people just slogging it away.
Yeah.
And they're getting families. They're having families, and they're trying to go on with their life, but they're still waiting on the part to come in. Or they're producing, and they're trying to make things happen. And they're struggling, they're sacrificing, they're believing in it. There's just things that I would tell them, right?
Yeah.
If you knew, like, hey, after tonight, I'm never going to see Tim again, you'd be like, hey, Tim, by the way. Yeah. Or I'd be like, hey, Joe, by the way, as you go on your quest, let me tell you. Because I really feel like that. Like, my journey's been kind of like a quest. So you see people on this pilgrimage that are going kind of the same speed, the same direction, and you end up walking with them for like a year or two.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the quest or the pilgrimage takes you different ways, and you just never see them again.
Yeah.
But I think that's the... I now carry that I don't want to be that missed appointment of like speaking to somebody as if like maybe we're never going to see each other again.
You do that well. You do that very well.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah. It's I'm
only telling you that because I'm probably not planning on seeing you again after tonight.
Hey, that's a good point. That's a good point. Wrap. I know that there are times where I meet people, and these are smaller things, but I meet people, like I met one guy who moved from Canada to Louisville for a job. And, the first question is like, well, what do you guys need? Do you need a washer? Do you need a dryer? Do you need a car? Do you need a job? He had a job, but you know what I'm saying. Like, do you need to know what middle schools are the best middle schools?
Yep.
And in this environment, you're a transplant as well. See our about bio of people transplanted to the Midwest.
Yeah.
But here is very, people want to know what high school you went to.
True.
Where'd you grow up? What neighborhood were you in? It's very local, which is wonderful. But I don't think that by and large, most people think like, oh, you just moved here. You probably don't have a washer and dryer. Yeah. You probably don't have. Some other friends of ours moved back here. And we had just had a baby. And so we had, I guess when you have a baby and you're under an income, they give you like a little e-WIC card, right?
WIC, yeah.
They'll pay for like $50 worth of groceries a month,
Okay.
It's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's something though.
Right.
Anyways, I'm so thankful that was a blessing. But then some friends of ours moved here, and they didn't have a job. They just moved here. So then we gave them the e-WIC card, and we told them the PIN, and we're like, hey, you get $50 worth of groceries a month, until you find a job, you find your spot,
Is that the only time you've stolen government benefits, or?
Oh, well, now
I'm just kidding.
You got me. $50 a month for 3 months. I took that government for $150. I think the government would have helped them if they had time and opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
But anyways, that missed appointment, I feel like I know there's been times where like I wrote an awesome script, or I was trying to make a short film, or I was going out trying to just meet people, or start like a, anyways, just start something, do something, be something, you know? A lot of times I see something that could be that like would be so valuable. And there's a missed opportunity that's so maddening with like, well, isn't somebody else already doing that? It's like, no. Here's a great example. I'm trying to start a radon detector program with the library. So you would, instead of, you could check out books, but you could also check out a digital radon detector.
What? You're doing that? What a great idea.
I'm sure trying.
What a great idea.
There's some missed appointments here.
Oh, no. Well, the library director is retiring. Catch him soon.
Well, my friend at the library is doing her best.
Okay.
And I'm partnering with the nonprofit that I'm on the board of. They don't know. I haven't told anybody.
They don't know about this.
I haven't told them because you got to sew it all together.
Yeah.
And then you present the deal like, hey,
get a strong presentation.
all we need is a signature on this. But essentially, I said to the library, I was like, hey, guess what? I acted like I'd already gotten approval because that helps. Like, oh man, we'd love to give you guys like 4 digital because radon you can test with like charcoal that you put in your basement away from a window and then you send it off to a lab. Listen, I'm a motivated person and I am not motivated enough to do that radon test.
No.
But you can go to Home Depot and you can buy a radon detector for $100.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I sprung for it, man. I sprung for it. I bought one from my house. I put it up, and I told my buddy at work, I was like, hey, man, I got this thing. You should think about getting one. You can borrow mine.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I have one. It's in my basement. It just hangs out all day. And I was like, you could have saved me $100.
Yeah.
If you just let me borrow your radon detector for a month.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it should be at the library. You should go to the library and be like, hey, I'd like to check out the radon detector for a month just to see, like, am I, because it's the second leading cause of lung cancer. It preys on older people, especially who have the windows closed and are staying at home all the time. And our region, the soil is it is a little bit radioactive. Everything breaking down and coming up through the water. So it's like perfect. So I talked to the library. I was like, hey, we would love to give you so that's $400 worth of radon detectors, digital, and they tell you every day what your radon level is, every week, and every month, which is like awesome. You can tell like, hey, today was a spike.
Yeah.
But by and large, for the last month, we've been at under 2, so it's all good. And this is what I got back.
I love it.
What I got back was,
idea.
Well, you know, I think so-and-so said that such and such place does that. There's like a tool co-op in Germantown, which
Smoketown,
our listeners don't know how far away that is, but that's far. That's like 20 minutes for a West Ender to end up there, right?
I didn't know they had one there. I am a member of the Smoketown Tool Rental.
Okay, I think that's it. Yeah. So
and it's $125 a year to join.
So there is a membership fee, which is a sliding scale. There is a membership fee. So this is what I'm saying is I said, I want to give you a free opportunity to partner. Yeah. All you got to do is print a barcode and put it on the back of this radon detector.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
That's right.
And we'll put a QR code on the back.
Yeah.
They scan it with their phone and it gives them all the instructions.
Yeah.
All you got to do is put a barcode on it, keep it cruising.
Yeah.
Somebody in that upper level is like, well, you know, I heard that there's this tool co-op out in Smoketown that does radon detectors. I'm like, well, I think I would have heard about that. I think I would have. So I take 10 minutes and I find out like, oh, this tool co-op, it's only open
2 days a week.
8 hours a week. A week has 8 hours.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, that's the truth.
It's only open 8 hours a week.
And like a third Saturday of a month or something.
And I get on his tool thing and I search it because it's tools. Radon detectors don't come up, right? But listen, this guy's only open 8 hours a week or something like that. So I'm not going to fault him if his website isn't totally up to date. But there's a contact info.
Okay.
So I text him. Like, hey, do you have radon detectors? No, I don't. I got mine. It's charcoal. You put it in your basement. I got it at Home Depot.
Okay. Yeah.
So somebody almost stopped.
Right.
Somebody knocking on the door saying, hey, here's a free opportunity to make our neighborhood better.
Yep.
And all you got to do is print a barcode.
That tracks.
I would say that's a great example of a missed appointment and listen, we're still I wrote back and I was like, listen, I just talked to the guy. He doesn't have it. He's only open 8 hours a week. membership is $125.
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes away from like there's so many levels
Right.
that you could just say this was never
Right.
going to be a solution.
Right.
So I try, I think yeses are more powerful than nos anyways. Yeah. So I try and go through life with a pocket yes, just a pocket. You know how our pocket no. Yeah. Somebody says like, hey man, can I borrow $20? No, you can't borrow $20. That's just the pocket no. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to think about it. My life is busy.
Yeah.
I'm busy. I'm late for, typically I imagine myself late for something because I usually am. So I'm like, oh, the pocket no saves me because I'm like, listen, what if my pocket was a yes?
Oh.
Man, can I borrow $20? I'm late. Yes. Here's $20. Man, I was wondering, like, you want to get drinks later? Yes, I do. I'm late. What time? Where are we going? Send me a text. I'm out the door. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm just picturing the guy in the corner at Circle K who needs $20, and you say yes immediately, and you hand him $20, and you're just like, I bet this happens all the time. And he's like, this has never happened. just like, I'm 20 again at Florida State. This happens all the time, right?
Yes, I'm in a rush. Yes, you can have it. Let's get drinks.
My God, you should have asked me earlier.
Yes, let's get drinks. Oh my gosh, I'm late. Just text me where it's going to be, you know? Like, imagine if we went through life just with pocket yeses.
Yes.
You know?
Pocket yeses that you're already late for that appointment. Like, that should have happened yesterday. Come on.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Imagine our life. Now, listen, don't imagine the world after a pocket full of yeses, which is a beautiful place. Imagine yourself after a pocket full of yeses.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Oh. Yes, you're $20 cheap, poorer. But you can handle that and then you're going out with friends that you're like, man, why did I say yes to this? Because I'm pocket yesing. And you're like, man, we had an epic night of chess at High Horse.
Yes, we did.
That is amazing. You know what I'm saying? So
you'll never hear about it here.
It's the pocket yeses in life that I try and keep in my pocket because I don't want to be that missed appointment that something that could have happened, that radon detector for the library. Just because I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I'm really late for something. Somebody else is doing that already. Right. It's like nobody's doing that. Just have a pocket yes. You know what I'm saying?
I love that. Yeah, that helps. I mean, just showing up, being willing to welcome the interruption into your life is the key for sure. I mean, we talked about, if you remember our last episode, white lies, dirty laundry. The number one reason people lie is to avoid engaging with other people, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if you are willing to welcome the interruption, you will have far less missed appointments for sure. And you will also learn a whole lot about other people. And it is, I've tried to do that this week. This very week, somebody came to my door. And normally when somebody comes to my door with their music on extremely loud at 10:30 at night, I shut that down real quick.
Yeah.
You know, I got 2 kiddos to sleep. You have no idea how hard I worked to get them there.
Oh my gosh.
This guy, I mean, to talk to him just for a little bit was, I mean, he was, and even to hear, I mean, I knew him for 5 minutes, and he's telling me things that, people get paid to listen to, right? I mean, just tough stuff to hear. But the fact that I stuck around really was because it really was the beginning. I saw an opportunity for it to be the beginning of something more than a quick thing that needs a pocket yes or pocket no. Like, hey, I need $20, very transactional, right? It wasn't that. And for me to be able to listen and welcome that interruption once the music was turned off, I got to visit his house and be on his porch and talk to him some more. And like, it was, that was something that I hope is going to continue to be able to be a deeper relationship there. But so often, I know that I'm really bad at it. I will not even let it get to that point. Welcome the interruption just for a few more moments than you normally would, and you might actually be able to make some headway there.
Yeah, I think a listener out there can identify with many things, just even at work. You had a great idea.
Sure.
And somebody had a pocket no just waiting.
They tried.
And you tried. And then you're like, why am I ever going to come up with a great idea again? You know? But the reality is that who's coming up with great ideas and knocking on your door? Literally knocking on your door. Wanting that connection.
Sure.
You know? Well, that brings us to part 3, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my gosh.
It seemed like a disappointment. Now it's an anointment. You know what I'm saying? You You only have authority over the storms you can sleep through. Can I get something? Come on.
You can get
a lot of you out there. You're going to get me started. You went to the phone.
Don't get started.
You went to the phone. You should have gone to the throne. You know what I'm saying?
There he is. He's got another one.
That's all I got.
That's all he's got.
So, times in our lives that, in the moment felt like, man, missed appointment, disappointment. Somebody dropped the ball. This was supposed to work out.
Yeah.
I know for me, I was pushing it. I was trying to make it happen out in New York City, and then I was trying to make it happen out in L.A., make the movies, do those things, you know? Oh my gosh, love so many wonderful things that happened there. But I was just talking to a buddy of mine who, let's say, is successful out there. He's produced some short films, but he's also produced some documentaries, associate producer. He's doing it. He's making some money. He's working the thing. His wife has been the head writer on several TV shows.
Wow.
And I was talking to him the other day, and he was like, man, L.A. is... One, we left right before COVID, which LA during COVID was really hectic, and everybody had a mask on. It was like really intense. And I love masks. Let's do masks. This was like intense. You know what? Like you're taking your dog out for a walk.
By yourself.
And somebody's reading you the fifth, whatever, reading, like so angry that you don't have a mask on outside walking your dog on a quiet Saturday morning. Yep. How dare you?
Yeah.
That was life then. Now, he said that with this I don't know what the shakeup is. Somebody else is tuned into the industry. But LA right now is very comparable to Detroit in 2008 when the auto industries were laying off thousands, if not tens of thousands of people. He said you don't hear about it because LA is so freelance. So they don't have the stats.
Sure.
But he said that it would be very comparable to Detroit when it sunk.
Wow. As far as like the content creation and all that specifically, right? I mean, 'cause
that's right.
Moving to different states.
Another friend of mine who was a project manager at Netflix for documentaries, and my octopus teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's got some Oscar award-winning projects that he worked with. Another one was the plant. The manufacturing plant, and I think in Ohio, that ends up being bought by a Chinese company and making glass windshields. Okay. It won the Academy Award as well. He was on that one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Wow.
Anyways, he's laid off. He's out of job.
Oh my goodness.
Because they consolidated, and now the person that was on a different project. Anyways, all that to say is like even people that have Oscar award-winning projects that they've been attached to are out of work. Mm-hmm. And trying to figure out what the next step is. Mm-hmm. So I'm so thankful because, gosh, we have a good time out here. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like, I'm not setting the world on fire, but I'm sure having a good time making some s'mores. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. It's good. It's good out here. We met some beautiful people. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. On that journey, on that quest.
Tim and Joe's Awesome Podcast just got nominated for a Pulitzer.
It's up there. We're looking into the future. That's right.
Are they doing podcasts now?
Yeah, they're down to podcasts.
It's getting rough.
So that was a wonderful thing that only in hindsight. You know, we left in October of 2019. Of 2019. Wow. And I remember packing up the moving van with my dad. He was so gracious to help me drive. Yeah. Stephanie to come here. We'd had bed bugs. We were out of work. We were losing about $700 a month.
That week? It was that month? The bed bugs? It all came at once.
Well, it was like a month before.
Wow.
And so the crowning achievement was after the bed bug treatment, and they came to Kentucky to hang out while I allowed myself to be bait for the bed bugs so they could crawl through the poison.
And after you confronted the person who gave you bed bugs, which is probably a great story for another time.
I did confront him. He was, yes.
That was phenomenal.
Yeah, I waited outside his apartment complex like a freaking psychopath, which I was at that time. But anyways, even after all that, man, I decided, no, we were going to stick this out. We were in K-Town, Koreatown, L.A. It was hot. We were second floor on a hot summer day, only window units on a hot summer day with the window units. It'd still be 95 degrees in the apartment. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. No ceiling fans to be had. And after the bed bugs, after no work, well, I had work, but it wasn't paying the bills. After all this, couldn't get couldn't get a script sold for anything. I was like, you know what? I'm doubling down. I'm going to put in my own ceiling fan. And I got up there and I took out the sconce and I looked up and I was expected to see a ceiling joist. And there was just empty space. They just cut a hole into the drywall.
Oh, for the light.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, in hindsight, this was hidden to me at the time, they do make a contraption that extends. It has
to the joist.
To the joist. I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
I just remember getting up there, pulling out that sconce, pulling out that light box, and realizing, like, this is just hanging onto drywall.
Yeah.
I cannot. My ceiling fan could not find purchase on those rafters.
Oh.
And that was when I knew, like,
the man can't even get a ceiling fan around here.
We're not meant to stay here. So yes, there was
What's the guy got to do?
And so we moved October of 2019, and I was just like so heartbroken. And there are still moments where I'm like, man, I wish it would have worked out differently. But it wasn't but 5 months later that the world came crashing down with COVID.
Yeah.
And we were in like the perfect spot.
Yeah.
We had neighbors.
That's me.
We found so much fun, so much bubbles, so many things. It was like beautiful. And then out of that came spin-off small groups. Get very intentional. I feel like we all came out of COVID very intentional. We have to get to know the people we care about. And if I don't care about you, sorry about the pocket yeses, but now it's a pocket no, because I need all my pocket yeses for, that kind of a thing.
Sure.
So that would be a really good example of that.
No, that's really good. I mean, I think that I've had, experiences like that where, I mean, in retrospect, almost always, hopefully, you're looking back and you're realizing what you learned from that experience, right? And from New York and LA, I mean, they've come up many times on here. They've been incredibly influential. I don't think anybody ever, they take a chance like that, I don't think they ever regret it, especially if they have the eyes to see sort of what they gained from that, the friendships that they made, the lessons learned. And then what's not always talked about is just like the fact that I don't have the urge to do that or the regret that I have to live with, right? Because that's something some people carry around with them. So that's a fantastic transformative thing that happened, and I'm really glad you guys got out when you did. And when you came down in 2019, we became neighbors, and that was awesome.
Man, there you go.
And so that's great, man.
Well, I should mention, kind of the impetus for this was an author that we both appreciate for some of his work.
Sure.
Danny Silk said, like, when I was young, I wanted to own my own grocery store.
Yeah.
And I was praying for it. I was like, I'm going to be a grocery store owner.
Yeah.
And he was disappointed when that dream never came true. He was working in a grocery store. He's like, oh, I'm going to own the grocery store. Then he was like, all right, well, I'll go back to school. I'll become a counselor. And he's like, I'm going to be an amazing counselor. I'm going to make tons of money. I'm going to help tons of people doing a counselor thing.
Right.
And just couldn't get off the ground. So then he was like, oh, well, I'm being invited to be a pastor of a small church. And he's like, I'm going to be a pastor of this church. It's going to be amazing.
Yep.
And then they were like, it's time for you to go. So then he was an associate pastor at a bigger church. And then he ended up having, 6, 7 books come out, international helper for marriage and families and that kind of thing.
A lot of books about kids.
And he says, man, thank goodness that I don't own a grocery store somewhere in small town California.
Yeah.
If I'd been given the yes from the beginning, I'd be,
When you see, I mean, when you're at a grocery store, that is the obvious thing, right? But when the reward is so clear, the competition is fierce, and somebody else is going to come out and grab it, right? Like, but when you're able to realize that there's some little bit of potential beyond just the surface, right? Of the payoff, the reward, something to work towards, and maybe it doesn't involve breaking the glass ceiling, but it involves kind of flipping the script a little bit and looking beyond just the initial, like, okay, I work at a grocery store, so I just want to own the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't. I mean, does it ever work out like that? I mean, I guess it does. You don't hear about it because it's rather boring, but
Write us if you own a grocery store and you started at a grocery store.
Yeah, well, you didn't start at a grocery store.
It's good money right now.
Maybe you did.
Well, what about you, man? something that was a disappointment at the moment, and now you're like, hey, you know what? Actually, I dodged a bullet.
There's a few that I jotted down.
Right. What was her name?
Not a chance. Not a chance. We, not even a factor.
She broke my heart.
No,
She's a psychopath. I am so glad that didn't work out.
No, absolutely not. No, there's no regrets.
Cheryl, we love you wherever you are out there. I don't know. I'm making things up.
Yes, he is. If my regrets, I don't have a ton. A few did come to mind, but since we've been talking about homeless services, I'll stay in that vein. Around the same time that I was. I was working with youth at the same time I was doing the housing stipends for 18 to 24-year-olds. I was having a blast, probably the funnest, most apt I've ever been at my job once I kind of understood really how to relate to other people and help folks out. But meanwhile, in the background, there's this idea coming out of Minneapolis called host homes. And the idea is that by the time, and I'm witnessing this, somebody's getting a voucher. HUD, we've got a voucher for an 18-year-old who's sleeping on the street. There's ways that you can kind of index it's called the VI SPDAP, but who's the most vulnerable to get off the street, right? If somebody's a pregnant, mother, like get them off the street, right, first. So you got a voucher, find them, all right? That's always the fun part. You're going through, abandos, and you're going to viaducts or whatever. You're going in whatever shelters, and you're finding people. We've got a voucher for you.
Okay.
The tricky part is to get a landlord to take a chance on you, right? Because it's HUD voucher, it's coming from HUD money. It's got to be an actual apartment complex. We're not going to go and just off anybody here.
Yeah.
But the idea is, what if you could take somebody in that 2-3 month period that it's going to take to actually sign a lease and move in, and you pair them with somebody in Louisville who's a good person, like you were when you let Dave sleep in your backyard. But what if you have a spare bedroom? You had 5 people in your house. There were no spare bedrooms.
Yeah.
But what if you're doing a little bit better?
You tried to give him the couch.
You tried giving him the couch.
We were
but
like, it's a pull-out.
Yeah.
Dave didn't want it. He was like, no.
Dave's his own man. Dave needed the backyard as much as y'all needed the backyard.
He needed his privacy. Yeah. He had his TV. He'd get the day-old donuts.
Yeah.
Dave was living his perfect life in our backyard.
He was doing all right. He didn't need the couch. You didn't need the couch. But somebody's got a spare bedroom who would be comfortable with an 18-year-old who's, there's a million reasons they're homeless. Maybe it's addiction, but maybe it's also LGBTQ. Maybe they've been kicked out of the house. Maybe they're pregnant. They got kicked out of the house, right? And so the idea was this host home network, which I worked really hard on kind of helping on the advisory team, writing some of the bylaws and making this a reality and bringing it and helping bring some funding in for it. And it was my hope to manage that and to kind of bring this brand new, refreshing program that I thought was really kind of radical in some ways, right? It's sort of this belief that like a lot of people just don't know the homeless, right? But to get a chance, if somebody would take a chance on somebody, like they're going to take a chance on them again, right? Because it's going to be so rewarding as well. And there's just
like foster care, but for people who have aged out.
They've aged out
in a sense,
right? And it's also understanding that like this is going to be hard, right? Like these like. They're not getting folks who are just like gonna be super grateful for their room and like help with the dishes and cook dinner. Like that is not gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
But so you're doing background checks on these families you're hearing from, which is a whole thing, and you're putting booklets together so like the youth actually gets to pick like, oh, this person they say they're LGBTQ friendly, right? I could stay there, and ultimately, everything was set up for me to take over to run this project, and just a few, maybe a month or two beforehand, the whole project gets pulled.
No.
The whole project, because somebody's with a pocket full of nose, and they see this is going to... And honestly, I think at the end of the day, they may have been right. That Louisville is not ready for this.
Wow.
Louisville is not ready for...
Think so?
I think we had a lot of issues recruiting hosts, a lot of questions, and somebody could have gotten hurt. A young adult could have gotten hurt. It's really hard to vet people. And we didn't have a network strong enough to reach out to that demographic at the time. Maybe it'd be ready now, right? Sometimes it's this isn't ready right now, and you got to be okay with that. But at the time, it was like, I don't even know. Like I'd put all my eggs into this basket, and to see that crashing down. Now, you never let a good tragedy go to waste, right?
Sure.
So when you hear those no's, your brain thinks different than when you hear the other. When you're always winning, you're not thinking the same way as when you get a really hard no.
Yeah.
Your brain goes into overdrive if it motivates you, and for me, it ended up completely different. I'd never worked in homeless services again after that happened. I hope to. Maybe again in the future, because it was just the most rewarding thing I ever got to do, really. But it was kind of a segue into my current world of like violence prevention, which has been rewarding in its own manner. Yeah. But there was an opportunity there where it's like, okay, this isn't gonna be. You can still go back to your old job,
Yeah.
Just like I know that. I knew one thing I did know is I'm ready to move on to something that I think is going to be. I want to create something. I want to be involved in something that's kind of groundbreaking and new. And so I'd had an opportunity to do that through Ocean, because it was a brand new world of community violence interventions was opening up, it seemed like, across the country for the first time. And so I was proud to be able to do that, and glad I made that choice. But in the moment, it was really disappointing, a lot of hard work, and something that I felt like was, this is such a need. Yeah. It's such a perfect fit. I thought of the fact that people need radon detectors in the West End, and there's no cheap way for them to get them, so they need to be able to check them off in the library. I found an actual gap in service that we can fill, and somehow it didn't work out. And why does that happen? I don't know. But in this case, hopefully we'll see host homes come to Louisville another time.
Man.
But in this case, I am in the end grateful for the really strong pivot that happened.
I didn't know that that little bit.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Anytime, I mean, again, with that 3 months, I've seen so many things go wrong in 3 months, right? Any night somebody's sleeping on the street and they're exposed to more fentanyl, they're exposed to sex trafficking, they're exposed to being taken advantage of, or not being able to find them again is a huge one. Like, okay, I found you, here's your voucher. I just need you to meet me here at the office like every Tuesday for the next 16 weeks. And we're definitely going to get this worked out. And we're going to go apartment shopping. It's like, dude.
That's not happening.
That's never happened. So host homes, if one of our listeners wants to help make that a reality, that's needed.
Yeah. Yep. Man.
That's all I've got.
Man, I love it. Gosh. Well, thanks for all that. Guess like, subscribe, hit the buttons, do the things. Shoot us a line. Joe and Tim and Joe's awesome podcast at gmail.com.
Hey, subscribe. I was thinking, listen up. Listen up. This is for you. We will, if you email us and you'd rather have a proper recording of this on CD, we'll deliver it. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that fair? That's how Netflix started.
And if you want to shout out, we used to have sponsored episodes by the beers we drank. If you want to shout out, let us know in an email.
And another thing.
While you're here. Don't be a missed opportunity. Don't be a missed appointment.
I've got an opportunity for everybody listening right now. Yeah. Because I went to the dentist.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
And I did not get my mouth tattoo.
Man,
it didn't happen. It wasn't the right moment for the right time. Missed opportunity for somebody to be able to give me a tattoo in my mouth.
Yeah. That is a
missed
appointment.
They're lost. But you know what? I think if we get how many subscribers do we have right now?
7? 8?
And after I give this offer, my family will unsubscribe. If we can get, let's see, I've got another appointment in 6 months.
To the dentist.
The dentist.
Dr. Callahan.
Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell. I will get Dr. Mitchell's name tattooed on the inside of my lip. If we can,
50.
50?
I think
50 subscribers. I'll shell out the money because I was trying to do it for free with my neighbor. He's got the tattoo gun. Shout out to Brianne Miller. But it wasn't the right time. She didn't want to touch my mouth.
Lip.
Yeah, she didn't want to touch my mouth. How hard do you push that, really? When someone's like, I don't know, I don't feel comfortable, and you're just like, I'll pay you. I'll pay you. Just do it. I need this.
Well, for 50 subscribers.
Yeah.
Mouth tattoo.
Yeah, before my next, I think I got like 5 months for our next dentist appointment.
All right.
Let's do it.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Come back. All right, we're out of here.